You know, there's an argument to be made about what the best DCEU film is. Some might say Zack Snyder's director's cut of Justice League. Some might say the first Wonder Woman movie. But others might say Man of Steel, the original DCEU film, and the first film featuring Henry Cavill as Superman. Hey everyone, Scott Player Pop Gold fan here, and in this video, I thought about it and I want to do a retrospective of Man of Steel, which came out 10 years ago, back in 2013, and I definitely think this movie still holds up. Like, I really like Hans Zimmer's score. I don't think it comes anywhere near close John Williams' score from the original Superman 1978 film. No, but it's still a really good score nonetheless. And I like how this is basically sort of an origin film for the character. Because we get to see like a version of Krypton that we've not quite seen before in film. This version of Krypton that we see in this movie, it's a lot more unique and interesting compared to the versions of Krypton we've gotten before in the past, because we never really got that much of Krypton in movies and TV shows before. And I think this movie did a really good job casting Henry Cavill as Clark Kent and Superman. Granted, we don't really get the Clark Kent mask until the very end of the film, and the films that followed, like Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, the Justice League movies, and Amy Adams. I think she does a decent job as Lois Lane, though she's not my favorite actress that has played the character. But she does a decent job nonetheless. And then also you have Michael Shannon as General Zod, who I thought was a pretty decent villain in this first film, even though he wasn't fully fleshed out. I didn't think there was that much to the character. And then even though he was brought back in the Flash movie, there wasn't that much to him either in that film. So I mean, he's not a character that you really care about, really, but you enjoy Michael Shannon's performance as the character, and you understand him, like you understand his point of view, and I think it's really interesting. Definitely, and you get that really big, fight at the very end of the film between Superman and General Zod, and it was a really intense fight, really epic, because they kept, just they were destroying the city, and a lot of the events of this first film still carried throughout most of the films, especially the Flash movie, and I thought that was used to great effect in later films, as it left a really lasting impact to other heroes in the series, as the series went on, and I thought that was really cool. So, like, in retrospect, I still think that Man of Steel has a better story overall compared to some of the other films, if you ask me, and I think this one also has a pretty good focus. Like, it doesn't stray too far away. Like, it has one story that it's telling and it doesn't, it doesn't stray too far away. Like, it has one story that focuses entirely on Clark Kent, and I like that. And also you get Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White. He was a really good casting. I liked him as Perry White, and it was just really cool how this movie turned out compared to some of the later films in the series. I think this movie still holds up. It is still one of my favorites. So yeah, this is like a sort of a retrospective of Men of Steel, and I really wish that this movie had gotten a direct sequel instead of Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. Like, while I do like that film, like, I like Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, and it did it was essentially a Man of Steel too, but also incorporated so many other elements with Ben Affleck's Batman, with Wonder Woman, and the cameos of Aquaman and the Flash and Cyborg. That movie just did so much, while also not just having Lex Luthor but Doomsday too as well. I would have liked to have those villains in a sequel to Man of Steel, just not in a movie that was so bogged up with so many other things going on. I would have liked a Man of Steel too, and I'm hoping that when Superman Legacy comes out, directed by James Gunn, I'm hoping that will get a sequel. Because the actor that they cast to play this new Superman, David Cornsweet, he looks like a younger Henry Cavill, and I oh, it's funny because David Cornsweet, he looks like Henry Cavill, and when in this first movie, there were times that Henry Cavill reminded me of Tom Welling a little bit, and the same thing goes to David Cornsweet. He reminded me of Tom Welling a little bit too. He reminds me of him as well because it's just similar. They look similar. They look similar. Because it goes all the way back to the original Superman 1978 film with with Christopher Reeves. He also had a similar look to him compared to some of these other actors. It's funny. It's like they all come off an assembly line, as I've said. And yeah, I think Man of Steel, it definitely paved the way and through for the rest of the series, and still left a lasting impact on being one of the stronger films in the series. I am okay, struggling with my words here, but yeah, and like this is a retrospective video, so I'm not gonna like grade Man of Steel 2013, but it's still a film that holds up, and I think that like the overall tone, the same. Christopher Nolan, he actually produced this movie, and I think you could definitely feel that. Like this movie felt a lot more grounded in tone. It felt a lot more realistic in tone, similar to the Dark Knight films, which makes sense because Christopher Nolan produced this movie, and it was just a really decent film that I think, for me, probably like top 3, top 4 DCEU films. And if I had to pick a number 2, I'd probably pick Zack Snyder's Justice League. His director's cut of that film, it's a really good project that came out, which surprised many people, including me. So yeah, and then also if I had to pick like a third favorite, probably the first Wonder Woman movie, I would say would be my third favorite DCEU film. And it's unfortunate that that the DCEU went sideways, and this new upcoming Aquaman movie, it's gonna be the last film in the DCEU, which, as I've said before, it's kind of a weird note to end on for the DCEU. And the Flash movie was more of a swan song and more of an ending to this franchise than the new Aquaman movie coming out. So it's just a weird note for this franchise to end on. And James Gunn, he's creating his own universe with his new DCU, the Superman Legacy being the first film, which is ironic because Man of Steel was the first film in the DCEU. It seems like they always do that with a lot of this DC franchises. They always start with Superman, all of them, and that even included Smallville. That even included Smallville, because Smallville, the TV show, started a trend with DC TV. That was the same thing. It started the DCCW universe started with Smallville. All these franchises started with Superman, and which makes sense because Superman is one of the most iconic heroes in cinema and also in comic books and TV. He's everywhere, and I love the character. Superman is probably my second favorite superhero next to Spider-Man. I grew up with the character. Tom Welling's version is the one that really made me admire and appreciate the character for what he is. And I love the character. I love Superman. Easily one of my favorite superheroes of all time. And Man of Steel helped solidify that when it came out 10 years ago. So yeah, that should do it for this retrospective. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace.